Changing prison culture through mentorship, community, and accountability. That accountability part is huge, man. Like when someone else that you look up to is just like as your peer or your equal, or maybe even like you like look up to him as a mentor. When that person tells you like, hey man, you're messing up right now. Like you deserve much better for yourself. You take it like serious. Like when it's just the cops telling you, hey, you need to stop that. You're like, all right, But when someone that's next to you that you respect and that that truly is in the same situation as you and says, hey, you need to stop that, or you can do something different with your life. Like you can actually be something great. As soon as you start telling them that, they believe it. They start believing in themselves just a little bit. And then when you light that fuel, like people love it, and they start like kindling that fire, and they start putting air to it, and it starts to grow.
Stories are powerful.
Welcome to the Rise, Recover, Live podcast, brought to you by The Phoenix. This is a space where people impacted by substance use can come to share their story of strength and resilience, get open and honest, and inspire hope and build community through shared experience.
We'll be talking to people in our community on their own recovery journey and shine a light on the topic of recovery in all its forms. Maybe you'll hear some of your story in theirs.
Let's show the world that together we rise, recover, and live.
All right, real quick, before we get into this episode, we want to inform you of a brief hiatus we are taking.
It is summertime.
Yeah, if Liz's jingle doesn't indicate it for you, we had to take a break. Rest is important, and so we're just going to take some rest.
Yeah, we're just going to take this summer to rejuvenate, to put together some new, really exciting ideas for the podcast. But we are not leaving you high and dry, right, Bryce?
Nope. Meanwhile, we are replaying some of our favorite episodes, which you may have heard or you may have not have heard, but we're going to replay them.
Yeah, and every time I listen to one of the episodes, I hear something different that I didn't hear the first time or that I need to hear in a different way this time. So I hope that you do listen to the replays. And in the meantime, we've got some asks for you.
First off, if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the podcast so you can stay tapped in. Secondly, there's a volunteer interest link in the show notes. If you have any experience with SEO, graphic design, or anything that could help take this podcast to the next level, we want to be able to work with you.
Yeah, the great thing about volunteering is you get to be more involved in the recovery community. You can give back a little to the podcast, get to know us, and also get some experience if you are looking to advance your career in graphic design, SEO, etc.
So enjoy the episode. We love you. We about to go hit the beach. We'll talk soon. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Rise, Recover, Live, the podcast. We are your hosts, Bryce III.
And Liz McKean.
Hey, Liz, how you feel? Hey, I like how you dragged that out, just like I dragged mine out. I was watching,
trying to match.
I was watching we just got back the live episode, the one we did in Palm Springs. And like when we introduced ourselves, like we get so much practice like on the internet waves that when we were together, it was like boom, boom. I'm like, damn, we are smooth with it.
It's amazing. It's amazing how different that feels because there's no delay. There's no, like, you're right there out in front of me. I think we got a little giddy about the whole being actually in physical, like, space together, though. So.
Oh, yeah. I get giddy now just thinking about it.
I know. Me too. It's really fun. We'll do more of those for sure.
Who do we have here today?
Well, today we have one of my favorite people, also an incredibly humble person, because when I asked how to introduce him, he said, I'm just Nick Wells. So this is Nick Wells, who also casually is one of the founders of a really incredible organization that I can't wait to talk about, Redemption Road, which we'll also refer to as RF2. He is also currently the president of that organization. And we're going to hear all about that, hear all about his story. For now, I just want to say hi, Nick, and hear how you're doing today.
Hi, welcome. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. I wanted to do this for a long time, and finally my schedule opened up where this is perfect.
Yeah, you're a busy guy. I know. Really appreciate you taking some time. It's just always fun to be able to spend some time talking to you and be able to share it with the community is an even bigger treat. So super grateful.
Well, thank you.
Welcome, Nick. Liz has spoken so much of you and all great things. I'm excited to get to know you through conversation today and in person soon. But to jump off our conversation today, how's your energy?
I'm great, man. I'm super excited. It's been a really good couple of days. I'm pumped up. I've been looking forward to this, but just in my personal life, a lot of things are going good and moving on the right track. So it's been a really good week. So
awesome.
My energy's high level of energy, always.
Heck yeah. Which is shocking because you get up at, 4 o'clock in the morning today, which was a leisurely hour past when you usually get up in the morning.
I feel
Wild.
super rested.
Wowza. Well, just to give a little background between Nick and I, how we met, just because I have spoken highly of him, maybe even on this podcast, I might have mentioned him. We worked together last year and will again for a program that Phoenix does in partnership with another company where we put Phoenix content, videos, classes into prisons and jails across the country and bring that sober, active community, even to folks who are still often sitting in a cell by themselves, and they're able to feel connected to this community outside. And the reason Nick was so connected with that project is because it affected him when he was personally incarcerated. So you have not even been on the outside all that long, Nick, and already accomplished a ton. So if you'd like to tell us a little bit about your story, do you want to just start actually by just what's going on with you recently, and then we'll dig back into the beginnings?
Yeah. So in the last 10 months or so, I've just kind of acclimated back into society. And in that time, I got plugged in right away with the Phoenix. Obviously, I knew that was going to be my first stop. And it actually was my first gym. I went down there with Dan and Nicole and went to the Phoenix the first night I got out and did my first workout, CrossFit workout on the street. And so I was super happy about that. Filled out the volunteer paperwork, got all that stuff plugged in right away. Started coaching, trying to make it as a coach, 4 different gyms at times, driving all over the state to try to get, try to make ends meet and try to just figure out my life. And now I'm blessed to be the gym manager at Park Meadows CrossFit in Lone Tree, Colorado. And I'm loving every minute of it. I still volunteer a lot for the Phoenix. I still work for CrossFit Decimate down in Colorado Springs as well. But that's where I'm at right now in my life. I just moved into a new place. And so I'm really excited about that. And just enjoying every minute of it.
So I like to temper my questions. So sometimes,
do you?
Sometimes I like to strategically place them, but I think one of the first things that comes to mind, and I think in a previous conversation that Liz and I had regarding you, like just in this conversation, like you've mentioned that you're the president of this organization, you are the gym manager at this organization, you're coaching at this organization. How are you able to, one, show up in all of these different spaces, but two, make sure that you continue to take care of yourself in the process?
That's been the key question. So self-care, right? Self-care. And so I've always been a busy person. Like even when I was up to like no good on this, like in my previous life, I was super busy at that. But in prison, my days started at 4 a.m. and I would do my studying from 4 to 5 a.m. Then I would go to work till 3:30 in the afternoon. And then I was also a mental health peer assistant. So I would go and do all these things and then go coach CrossFit and then go back and do one-on-one studies with guys and then try to find the time for my own workouts and my own self-care. But that's part about who I am. I like to stay busy. I like to stay focused. And when I'm focused on things that are super important to me, I feel like it's self-care in the process. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Coaching CrossFit, I get to see the gains and I get to see the benefits and the physical benefits and the emotional and health benefits in other people, which translates to my own sobriety. It translates to my own like self-worth. And so although I'm super busy, I feel like I'm in the exact realm where I need to be. And then Redemption Road CrossFit and Redemption Road Fitness Foundation, taking over that as president has been, one, I'm really honored that they asked me to do it. And two, that I see a vision for it. And I'm like, okay, well, I know how to implement it because I've been around since the very day it started. And so I'm like, okay, so I know what our goals are. And when other people, like, bless their hearts, they've all came in and helped us build this organization from the ground up. We didn't have access until recently when like myself and my friend Taylor, who's the vice president, have just gotten out. And so now we're out here. But that to me is so important in that I see the drive that although I'm super busy, like I feel like the self-care is being taken place while I'm doing these different tasks. So it helps me with seeing the results in other people. And then the RF2 just knows that I'm doing something there's a huge group I think it's like 2,300 men and women in the Colorado Department of Correction that are benefiting from the work that we're doing out here. So it absolutely just makes me as happy as it can be. So work, but it's happy work.
Yeah, no, that's dope. And I think, when seasons change, so, being attentive to what it is that we need in different seasons is very important. But I've had a conversation, I remember a recent conversation I had with somebody in DC where, she had said like, well, how are you taking care of yourself? You're not meditating, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. And it was like, self-care looked different to each and every person, like at that moment we were at a conference about like principle-based management. And like this was a retreat for me. Like, I'm fully engaged. This is self-care to me. Whereas other people that's in the room that's like, oh, this is kind of stressful. Like this isn't my space like that. Like I'm here turned on and I'm gonna have to like charge back up after this, And so I think that just is very indicative of like self-care looks so different to so many different people. And it may look different to me next season. Who knows? But no, thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Self-care is, it's your own unique thing. You can try to cookie cutter it, but when it comes down to it, where you find peace and you find solace, like I am meditating when I'm in the middle of a workout. That shared suffering with other people, I love it. I feed off of it. It revitalizes me. It makes me feel good. Obviously, I do recommend, like I need sleep. So that's why I'm here. Like I'm in dire need of sleep for recovery, like and health purposes. Like my health was starting to suffer a little bit, I think. And so I needed to focus more on getting the adequate rest that I need in order to do all the things that I'm doing.
So you were talking about how you were busy even when you were up to no good, I think were your words. You were busy then. And then, obviously that came a little bit to a screeching halt, I'm sure, when you were serving time. But when did that shift? Because not everybody, gets to prison and is like, I'm going to immediately start, studying and working out and then like supporting other people. Like I would imagine that wasn't like, one moment to the next moment. Like, how did that shift happen? Because I know, recovery is part of your story too. Like like addiction's part of your story. So how and when did that shift happen?
That shift is a crucial part of my life. It's a turning point, right? So I started doing methamphetamines when I was 14 years old. I moved to Colorado from LA and I just fell right into the wrong crowd. And so drugs became an everyday part of my life at a very, very early age when you're supposed to just be playing with your friends and you're supposed to just be like learning about like high school and stuff. But I was knee deep in a drug world that turned into crime, which turned into, a 60-year prison sentence 14 years later. And so that addiction just was with me all the way through that, my childhood and my early adult life. And then when I was arrested for the final time in 2008, my whole world was just like everywhere, I was like, man, I can't even breathe. I don't even know, like, how do I wake up? How do I do this? And I ended up like just consuming food and like just eating my feelings and not sharing and just going in my cell and just not talking to anybody and like really in a dark place where like, my head wasn't right. My body wasn't right. I ended up gaining like 120 pounds. I went up to 400 pounds and I was like, man. And then I started like painting and I started painting these murals in the county jail. Like they wouldn't let me do anything. They were like, man, you're such a troublemaker. Like, like, they had me locked down. And then finally this programs lady was just like, hey, you got a really good talent for that art stuff. And I was like, well, thanks. She's like, we want to do some murals. And I was like, all right, like, I'll do it. I was like, but one condition. She's like, what's that? I was like, give me a radio. Like I haven't heard music in 2 years. I'm going crazy in here. You know what I mean? And so they gave me a radio and I just painted every program room in that county jail. And I started to feel good about myself when I was doing it. I was like, oh man, I started to feel good. And a friend of mine came in who had knew me previously and was like, dude, what happened? I was always a big guy, but like, he's like, what happened? He's like, you look like you ate your former self, And I was like, look, man, I got, I have like 103 felonies and I'm looking at the rest of my life in prison and life sucks, And he was like, look, we're going to change. We're going to change this right now. I went out, started working out with him and I was like, man, like it was so quick. Like something just like triggered in my brain. Like you don't need to do any of the stuff you were doing. You don't need to worry about your life. You need to start focusing on like what you can do.
Yeah.
And I stopped making excuses and started just, really having the belief like, hey, you can do this. Like, no matter what, like your life, I'm going to prison, accept it. Like, you got to this point. This is what's going to happen. Like, how do you change that? So I started just working out every day. I started reading every day. I started like just really focusing on like myself, like learning stuff I never learned because I didn't pay attention at school, reading everything I could get my hands on, working out continuously. And then when I got to prison, that mindset was drilled in my head. I was like, okay, like you got to do something different. And I started looking at the culture and seeing what was really happening. And I was like, man, this sucks, you know? Like, it was full of racism and gangs and drugs. And I was like, that's not who I am. That's not my life. And so like trying to find a trail in that kind of chaos was hard to do. But I found another guy, the co-founder of RF2, Damian Arguello, who was on that same exact mission. Just like his face was always in a book. He was always working out. He introduced me to CrossFit, and I was like, man, I fell in love with it. You know, it just, everything started clicking. And so I was like, you know what, like, this is what I want to do. And people started taking notice, and more people started getting involved. And it just kind of like organically formed into this program that we now call RF2. But yeah, to get to your point, like, I just started doing that. I was like, I knew that in my mornings I had to do this. And so I had a window to study, and I would study then, and I would go to work. And then I would come home, and then my case manager was like, hey, I think you'd be perfect fit for this mental health peer assistant program. I think the way you talk to people, the way that people look up to you, and you relate to every different social aspect of incarceration. He's like, you would be perfect for it. And I loved it. It changed my whole view on mental health. It changed my whole view on prison. And I started really like focusing on that.
Yeah.
And it just took up all my days and nights.
Well, and you say that, you know, the program started organically, but like, once again, like, you're an incredibly humble person, but it wasn't entirely organic. Like, you didn't just find that path, like you paved it, and you reached back to invite other people onto it. Like, I remember you telling me a story last time I saw you about, I'm going to get it wrong, so you're just going to have to correct it for me. But basically there were some people that were just being given up on, you know, like particularly in people who were suffering with substance use disorder still while they were in there. And they were, I mean, it just felt like people were being kind of just tossed aside. And you were like, no, like, bring them to me, like, give me some time, like, give me, like, you were like, I'm up for this challenge. And
absolutely.
I mean, talk about that.
So you're referring to our FAST program. So a FAST is a fitness and sobriety training. This is actually how I found the Phoenix. I knew that I got sober through fitness and the community that brought. Right? The shared suffering, the same things I find solace in now is the same things that got me sober. It keeps me sober. There is a huge drug problem inside every prison in the country, but especially in Colorado Department of Corrections, it's running rampant. So yeah, administration, the people that continuously get in trouble, they're just told, nope, you can't work out, you can't do this, you don't have any liberty, you're choosing this, these are the consequences. But those consequences have adverse reactions, right? Like, it just fuels more negativity because now you don't ever get to go outside. When you do get to go outside, you're so angry, fights happen, pent up aggression, and people just need a positive outlook, you know, outlet. I went to administration. We're like, hey, you know, we want to start, give me the worst of your worst, right? Give me the people that you have deemed like un-saveable and give us a chance. And so they were like, there's no way. They're not even allowed to touch the weights. And then the warden was like, well, we'll rewrite the AI, which is administrative regulations that govern like closed custody offenders working out with weights. And so they gave us 6. They but they had one stipulation that 2 people, my friend Brandon, who was like one of the biggest troublemakers in the prison, and my friend Zach. They called him Loco, and they called him Loco for a reason. He was he's half crazy, but he had a serious big heart, but also a serious drug addiction. So they said, we'll give you those 2 and 4 other, and we'll give you like 6 weeks to see what you can do. And in that 6 weeks, those guys I broke it down to him. There's another guy I met. He's one of our very first guys, and he was actually at the Phoenix up on Champa. His name's Lars. Great kid. And we told him, we're like, look, you guys are the test dummies. You guys are going to pave the way for the rest of everybody. And if we mess it up, we mess it up. But it all lies on our shoulders and your shoulders. And those guys came through in a clutch, and we came through, and we just worked with them one-on-one. And we did kind of pave the way for that with RF2. Like we laid the groundwork at Lyman, and now it's in 11 facilities. There's 87 people in the FAST program at Lyman now. We went from 6 to 87. There's 6 coaches. They have recovery meetings twice a week. Everybody's a peer drug and alcohol peer coach. We paved the way for that certification to get put into the Colorado Department of Corrections. Yeah, man, the people are getting sober through fitness and just community. And so we're
in
actually
prison.
going out
That's happening in a place where you would just never expect. That's hard enough to have it happen out here. That's like,
yeah. And so DOC loves it. They love the program. They see the results. RF2 as a whole has a 0% recidivism rate with all of our coaches. So everybody that's escalated to coaches, and I wish we could say it about all of our participants, but we can't. I mean, if we could save the world, we would, right? But we're the only one that can absolutely say that we have 0% recidivism in DOC history. I mean, the best program I thought, the statistics I've read was the boot camp program, which was 33%. I mean, I went through boot camp and I reoffended within a year. It had a 33% recidivism rate, and they loved it. They thought that was fantastic. And
recidivism is going back, right? That's like reoffending.
And so they count recidivism as catching a new case. So, tried and convicted for it. You can catch a new case, but until you go back to DOC, you're not considered. That's not part of that statistic. I've been researching this because I don't want to say we have a 0% recidivism rate when we don't. You know what I mean? So, but we do, and so I'm super proud of that.
It's incredible. That's super cool. Sorry, Bryce, you look like you had a question. I was about to jump in.
No, it wasn't a question. It's recidivism.
Oh.
Recidivism. Yeah.
Sorry. I'm not saying it right. Yeah.
That's a really hard word. I don't think I've ever said that word right.
Yeah. Nah. I think what stuck out to me from the story that you shared, Nick, is, and that I want to see if there is some significance there for you, is, you talk about Loco and you talk about your other homie, and it's like, these are people that they lost. I mean, you can have them if you want them, but they lost. Like we don't got no more resources for them. And you were able to give them attention. I think what strikes my heart is that for a long time, nobody ever gave me that attention.
Yeah.
I seen a video with this kid at Walmart on Instagram, and she there with grandma. She throwing plants, breaking stuff. She went to go kick grandma. This woman come up in a wheelchair. She get out and she like, you need a mama to spank your ass and wah. And you look in the comments and everybody's like, ooh, child, if I would have been her parent, she would have had her ass whooped up and down. And it's like, I left a comment like the kid who doesn't feel the compassion from her village will burn it down to feel its warmth. And a lot of times, we don't get that attention. The only attention that we get is when we act out and when we do wild stuff. And then that becomes our MO, that becomes our identity. And maybe we forget the motivation behind why we do the things, and then we just become that guy. Now we Loco now. So I wonder if you could speak, was that a significant experience for you? And what was it like? What was the transformation that you've seen once some of these guys began to receive some of that attention?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it, Bryce. You hit the nail on the head. And so, all my life, from the time I was 14 on, right? I grew up in a really nice household. My mom, she worked her ass off. I'm just gonna say it. She went to work at 3 a.m. She didn't get home till 9 o'clock at night, but she was trying to provide for me, my sister, and my brother a life that we deserved, right? And we moved here. And, my whole life, I just felt like I was an outcast. I didn't feel like I belonged in Colorado. I didn't feel like the best way to say it is the island of misfit toys or a lost boy. I didn't feel like I had any type of identity as myself. You know what I mean? And when I got to prison, I saw those people like that, right? That people just forgot about him. They didn't, Loco, for instance. He started calling himself Loco. We wanted to give them, let them know that they are worthy. They are a human. They are great. There is infinite something inside them that someone loves and I love, and that we wanted to show them that. And so showing them that they are something, showing them that they could do something better. I felt like everybody has an inherent want to be held accountable. And that's our mission statement, right? Is changing prison culture through mentorship, community, and accountability. That accountability part is huge, man. Like, when someone else that you look up to is just like as your peer or your equal, or maybe even like you like look up to him as a mentor, when that person tells you like, hey man, you're messing up right now. Like you deserve much better for yourself. Like you take it like serious. Like when it's just the cops telling you, hey, you need to stop that. You're like, all right, but when someone that's next to you that you respect and that that truly is in the same situation as you and says, hey, you need to stop that, or you could do something different with your life. Like you can actually be something great. And so as soon as you start telling them that, they believe it. They start believing in themselves just a little bit. And then when you light that fuel, like people love it. And they start like kindling that fire, and they start, putting air to it, and it starts to grow. And like Zach, for instance, Loco, he's like, man, call me Zach, call me Zach. My name's Zach Rhodes. I'm sick of the local thing, and I'm like, man, that's, to me, that's what it was about. Like switching that mentality, getting him off the drugs. And with him in particular, man, like I used to go over there, he was in a gang, he was in a street gang. And so, he's a black guy, I'm a white guy. Me and him hanging out, working out together is pretty taboo inside prison. But I love that dude to death. And I'm like, I'm going to go hang out with him. I'm going to go eat with him. I'm going to do whatever I want to do with this guy. And I don't really care about the consequences. I don't really care. We're trying to change that mentality. And so he was like, man, I need help. My homies just want to get me high, and they just want to see Loco, And I'm like, well, call me over there. And I was on call 24 hours a day. And so he would call me over right before lockdown, because at lockdown is when his homies would come and give him drugs. They would come and say, hey, let's get high. You know what I mean? And then you go to your cell, you lock down for the night, and then you're just, back in that same square. And so he would call me over, we would sit down, and we would go they would let us in the classroom to talk. And we would talk for 30 minutes while the whole entire unit would have to lock down. And then by the time we saw everybody's locked down, we would just wrap up, and I would go back to my cell. I lived in a different unit, and he would go back into his cell, but he never had the opportunity. It stopped that opportunity. And like, he just started like really harnessing, like, I am Zach. I'm not Loco. I don't care about this anymore. Yeah. And he just grew from there. And like, he's thriving now, and so
that's powerful.
It is. It's like you said, everybody just wants to be corrected. Everybody wants to be told that they're like loved on, basically. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's just love. It's just kindness.
Yeah. That humanness, like that.
Yeah.
Just like
humanness.
And like, if everyone around you is treating you like you're not a person, like you just lose that identity even for yourself. Either you're like the best looking 90-year-old that ever was, or that 60 years didn't actually happen to be 60 years. Like, I think that.
That 60-year sentence actually just turned out to be just shy of 14.
Yeah. How'd that happen?
Through our program, through RF2, we, it started getting a lot of traction. At this point, we were only in one facility, just starting to expand to another one, which is that 999, CrossFit 999. And so we're at Lyman, and every year there's a CrossFit Open, right, which is a worldwide competition. So we had just wrapped up the Open, and we're like, man, we should do a competition inside prison where we invite volunteers from the street. Just put out an open forum on the Colorado affiliates page saying, hey, if you want to come do a comp inside a prison, like sign up here. And so the only requirement was that they entered their 2019 open score. So we can, what we did was we took our 30 top athletes, out of like 100 and something athletes, we took our top 30. And then we took everybody that applied, we took their top 30 athletes, and then we paired us up randomly on a scale, right? Our number one with their number 30, and so on and so forth. I randomly got paired up that day with a lady named Violetta Chapin. And so when I got in, the first thing she said to me was like, hey, just so you know, I Googled you. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, whatever. I was like, yeah, I was a car thief, And she's like, yeah. And she's like, just out of curiosity, nothing. Yeah, I didn't really care what I found. I was just curious to know more about you before I got there. And I was
It's a
like,
beautiful
well,
way to start a friendship. Hey, I Googled you.
you guys actually, I told you this when we met. Like, you guys look so alike. You guys are so similar.
Oh, that's right. I remember you said that. That's funny.
Exactly like. The second thing she told me was, hey, do you see that blonde girl over there? And I was like, yeah. And she was standing with my friend Pete, another one of the founders of RF2. And she was like, well, no matter what happens today, we have to beat her. And I was like, why? She's like, she's a prosecutor out of the county I work for. And I was like, oh, yeah? I was like, you're a lawyer? She's like, yeah. And I was like, well, cool. I was like, we'll beat her. I promise you. And so we ended up taking first place that day. Throughout the course of that competition, we were there for 5 hours, 4 workouts. We just got to talking, and I was sharing my story, and she was, telling me a little bit about herself. Not too much, obviously. She's a female inside of an all-male prison. And so I would say 2 weeks after that competition, I got a Christmas card from her. And then I was on the phone with my mom one afternoon, and my case manager came in all serious, like, come here real quick. And I thought for sure someone died or, it was like all bad. Never does my case manager come find me, We go into his office, he just hands me the phone and my heart sank, Yeah. But he has this like cheesy grin on his face. Like, man, this is how you give bad news.
That's very insensitive. Yeah.
And it was Violetta, and she was like, hey, what's up, dude? And I was like, not much. What's up with you? And I was super happy to hear her voice. And she was like, well, it's been on my heart for the last couple of weeks. And I just have it on my heart to get you out of prison. And I just started, and I was like, man. And she was like, look, I'm a lawyer. I'm a professor of law at CU, Boulder, Colorado, University of Colorado. And she was like, look, I'm an immigration lawyer and I've never done a clemency, but let's do it. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I knew right then, like something told me in my heart, like, you're going to get out of prison, Then, COVID hit 2020. A couple months later, that was January. I think that was January of 2020. And then by March, everything was shut down. We had no visitors, nothing. So I just spent the entire summer on the phone with her students, with her, telling my life story over and over again. And just, my upbringing, like physical, mental abuse, just drug addiction, reliving all these things that I had pushed down for years. And I was like, man, but it was cool to get them out. But the whole time I'm like, man, I'm going to get out. And I just started making plans. I was like, man, I'm going to get out. I'm going to get out. I bought a TV. I bought like all these clothes that I can't afford. And like, I had no idea what size I wore, but I kept on just buying things. My mom was just like, are you sure you want to buy this? And I'm like, yeah, just buy it. Buy it and put it in like, in the closet or something. That was a long 2 years, but in December of 2021, they called me down to the case man. There was a lot more to it, but I moved to Sterling Correctional Facility so I could coach CrossFit all day to our program up there. And they called me in. We were actually locked down with COVID. I was in my room, had COVID for the 3rd time. And
oh my God.
She said, 3 shots, 3 times of COVID. But I mean, in that closed quarter environment, there's nothing you could do.
Yeah.
She's like, hey, I need you in my office at 1:00. And I was like, oh yeah. She's like, you have a meeting with the governor. And I was like, man, my heart just sank. I just started crying. My buddy Jesse, he's like my cellie, and I just jumped down and we just started I was hugging him. I was crying,
Yeah.
I had just met this guy. I moved there December 17th, and that was December 30th. And I went into that Zoom, and there was a bunch of people on the screen similar to this. I'd never been on a Zoom call, like an official one.
Yeah.
And I'm on there, and this one lady's crying, and I was like, I don't even know who she is. I still to this day don't know who she is.
She knew you.
Terrible. And then she knew me. They got on and told me that they were going to commute my sentence and let me go. And it took a few months. That was, like I said, December. And I got out May 10th, 2022. And walked out that door. Never thought that was going to be a reality. Thought I was going to die in prison. And my mom thought I was going to die in prison, And so her and my niece came up and picked me up. And it was just surreal. And so since then, just been doing everything I told you so far.
Yeah.
Phoenix, volunteer 3 nights a week for the Phoenix. And
still reaching back and supporting everybody.
We're
where
going
you are.
We're going Saturday to go drop off $2,000 worth of equipment to Delta, which is going to be our upcoming facility for RF2. That same guy, Pete, he's up there. It's a minimum center. So he's transitioned all the way through, and he's like, man, I need help. And I was like, we got you. And we're going up there, going down on Wednesday down to Territorial with Kaylee. You know, Kaylee Jones. She's we're going down to Territorial to do volunteer to make guys down there volunteers. And so we can get the Phoenix run in that prison. And then Sunday the 2nd, we're going back out to Lyman for a fast recovery meeting, and then a hero workout afterwards. And so, I love it. I keep on just every day I wake up and someone's calling like every 5 minutes from the prison, like, hey, what's up? And so we're trying to coordinate it. We're trying to get everybody volunteer for the Phoenix so that when they get out, like people are just starting to get out. So we're like, hey, and even if they don't get out, like people that are doing life, you know, there's a lot of guys like the founders of RF2, they're not getting out. Cruiser will get out soon. Damien will never get out. I don't want to say never, but he has a hard road, but he's not slowing down one bit.
Yeah.
You know? And so we're just trying to get everybody paving the way. So either they get plugged in with RF2 right away, obviously, but also that they can just jump right on that calendar. And we have level 1s and level 2s getting out of prison, and they can just pick up a Phoenix class and just
great.
Hit the ground running, man, because this community, you guys have just totally embraced me, Kaylee and Dan. And I mean, me and Sophie talk all the time now. And that just whole community is just where I need to be. And it keeps me sober. This is the longest I've been free and sober in my entire life. So
it's incredible.
Cool. Yeah.
Man. What a story.
What a freaking story, right? I know. Well, the community, first of all, is better because you're part of it. Like you've brought so much, like you bring so much to every space that you're in, which, you know, because you are in a lot of spaces, you're making a lot of spaces better and more supportive. And I think the thing that just blows my mind is how not only you are building community out here and how there's just this incredible, I don't know, I've been so lucky to get to know you and a few other people that have had these kinds of experiences, and to see all that you can do on the outside to then still support people who are on the inside. And so even those who aren't going to possibly get out, like, can have supportive community and can still do like the sober, active, connected, you know, transformational activities, and just like see that growth happen wherever you are. Because wherever you are, whatever your situation is, like, you deserve to feel connected. You deserve to feel like you're growing and like you're a person and like you're seen when you're doing that. So
I really appreciate you guys. I mean, this program, that's how I found the Phoenix too, is like that fast. And so I was like, man, then I saw it on the news and they were showing you know, Scott was talking on the news, and I was like, I got to get a hold of this guy. You know? I was like, I need to talk to this guy. I got to pick this guy's brain, because like, this is what we're doing. This is like what we believe in.
Yeah.
And so my mom, I called my mom, and I was like, hey, like, I need you to call this guy, Scott Stroh. And she's like, you just want me to call some random? I was like, just call him. Call him and tell him what's going on. And he replied right away, and he talked to my mom. And then we had that competition at Denver Women's prison, and he sent Dan up there, and I got to meet Dan for the first time, and I was like, man, this guy's full of energy. And
we should get Dan on here. He's definitely full of energy.
Yeah,
he brightens up every space too.
He texted me, he's like, you're moving, and he was so pumped, and he's always so pumped and so excited. Yeah, that's how, like, you know, it all came, and I was like, that's exactly what I want to do when I get out. This is exactly what I was doing in here.
Yep.
And then as far as getting people, you know, plugged in on the inside, like, just like you said earlier, Bryce, like, they're not forgotten. I mean, they're just not, like, and every day I wake up and those guys are readily on my mind. And whether it's like having to make t-shirts, or it's just writing them a little simple email saying, hey man, like, what's up? You know, sending them pictures. Everybody knows, like, if they know me, like, for years, there was this little back docked window, like literally, like, you know, 18 inches by 4 inches. And we were always in the sewing shop, but it faced it east. And so every morning, like, no matter what, I'd always have my watch set for when the sunrise was coming. And I would sit there and I would just look out this fence, and I would just see the sun. And I'm like, man, it's so beautiful. You know, I was like, I just want to get out there. You know what I mean? And so, like, I would watch the sunrise. I actually just painted it from memory one day, like, just, you know what I mean? And sent it home. And I was like, this is my morning view. And then, so now, like, since we can't see those sunsets, so now I take pictures of sunsets. Sorry, I'm getting emotional, but I take them and send them to the guys, like, here, this is what you're missing on the other side right here. You know what I mean? So don't forget it. Like, you're not forgotten. You guys got the best sunrise in the game on the Eastern Plains of Colorado. And then, but this is what it looks like setting over the mountains. And so I'll take pictures of them and send it to them. And so just trying to help out, just trying to get them to know that they're loved, that they're supported, and that, I mean, look, hope is real. I never thought I was going to get out of prison. I'm right here.
Yeah. You're definitely the manifestation, the embodiment of hope, and the fact that you're giving back and doing so from such a unique viewpoint, doing so from, like, I need to hear it from you versus from me, because I don't have that experience, but to hear it from you and to be encouraged and to know what it's like to watch those sunsets on that side of the wall and to watch those sunsets on this side of the wall. You know, that's man, the impact that you could have on the lives, and I'm sure have had multiple times over on the lives of people, is immense. And I thank you for the work that you do.
Oh, well, you're welcome, man. It's like my honor. I love it. This is my life. This is what I do on a daily basis. And
Wow.
Just feel like it's my calling, man.
Hell yeah. I know. Isn't it wild when you look back and you're like, actually, yesterday was a 7-year anniversary since I got arrested for a DUI. And I always look back on that day. I'm not a person who counts days in recovery, but that's a day that I'll never forget. And I called a few people who are, part of my life now because of things that happened then, and was just like, I just need to just notice this day every single year and be like, man, thinking about like what I was doing at this moment at that time. And then to just think about how, the things that you just never think you're going to get through. You look back and you're like, man, not only did I get through it, but I just like shined up that turd to be this life that I could not be more grateful to have. And it's just like, because of it, like it wouldn't have happened. This me wouldn't happen if that me hadn't happened. And it's the same for you. I know, Bryce, you're going to laugh. I don't know why. Some things just come out of my mouth. And as soon as I see your face, I'm like, darn, it was one of those things, wasn't it?
Shining turds, baby.
Yeah, shining turds. Polish that thing up.
I know. And it's a
my life would not be like this if all that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Go through everything I went through. If I wasn't arrested, I do keep track of my day. It's August 11th, 2008. And that's the day like my life changed.
Yeah.
And I celebrate that every year. I call my sister, tell her I thank her for like saving my life, helping me save my life. And then ever since then, I've been just doing a really horrendous workout, which is cool. But like, I know I'd be dead, right? Like my best friend who I used to do all this stuff with was shot and killed by the cops. And, that hit me too. That was another turning point in my life. And like, and I was like, man, that could have been me. You know what I mean? It would have been, that day. And so like, I'm like, man, I'm like, my life changed and I thought it was over, but it was just starting. You know what I mean? It was just like, hey, let's start this show and like, let's make something of it. And so I always look back and I'm like, every morning I tell myself, like every morning I look in the mirror, I take a shower, I brush my teeth, and I literally look at myself in the mirror every day and I just smile and I'm like, man, you're free. Like you're free and this day's going to be great. And like, you're killing it. You know what I mean? How bad how tired I am. I'm like, man, but I just I can't laugh. And I'm thankful for everybody that was put in my life. I'm thankful for my friend that came into the county and was like, what happened to you, dude? I'm thankful for my friend Damien, Violetta, you know what I mean? My mom, who's been there like a rock through my entire life. You know what I mean? She's seen like, just waves and waves. And like,
I don't know how moms do it.
Moms are the VIP of this show. I will say that for sure. Moms are the VIP of Rise, Recover, Live.
I know. It's so true.
I think too, being here, like in this pocket of gratitude and looking back, like I think this is the perfect segue as we wrap up into the question.
The question. Yeah. We ask everybody, Nick, at the end of this show, some similar version. It always comes out a little different, but what might be a message you would give to a previous version of yourself without any kind of rules around that? Could be any kind of words you might send.
Just own it. Love yourself. Love yourself. Figure it out. Love yourself. Look, until I spent so many years not loving myself. And when I finally realized, like, I can't possibly love another single soul until like I'm super happy with the person I am. You know what I mean? Like all my faults, all my flaws, imperfections, like just love that. Love it. Own it. I do. You know what I mean? And I'm like, man. And so if I could tell myself back when I was a kid, like, hey, love yourself enough to not do that. Love yourself to give back, love enough to help others, because that's my calling, right? Is to help others. And you can't love or help anybody else until you love and help yourself. So that's what the advice I'd give myself, for sure.
Perfect. And you're giving it to all these other people. You're out there just like reminding them that they're loved no matter where they're at. Well, I'm pretty sure everybody who listens to this loves you very much too already. And they're probably wiping away tears, because I know that's how everybody's feeling here. And they are going to definitely want to learn more and know what they can do to support the work you're doing. So,
well, if they want to learn more, they can always email me at nick@rf2.org. They can reach me. That's my foundation email. And also, I mean, I'm on the Phoenix app. Hit me up.
Heck yeah.
Awesome. If you need to know more, if you want to know more, want to talk, want to hear more, just email me. I'll respond right away.
Amazing. Yeah. And we'll definitely link that information and any other information, any websites or whatever that might be helpful in the show notes. And yeah, I would imagine you'll probably get some messages, because, I feel like so often folks like feel overwhelmed by the amount of suffering that's happening in the world, and the amount of people that are in pain and feel helpless, and sometimes that helplessness stems from not being able to reach the person that maybe is right in front of you. So a way to honor that and to support them is often to support others who you can reach. And that can be through the work you're doing, through what the Phoenix is doing. And yeah, it's just every little bit, just loving the person in front of you makes such a difference.
That's the truth.
Yeah. Wow. This was so great. I knew it was going to be great, but it just even was greater than I could have ever imagined. So thank you, Nick. I know that you are incredibly busy, and we're so grateful to have this time with you. And I can't wait for more people to hear your story and hear about what you're doing and get to know RF2, Redemption Road, and just to see it continue to grow and thrive.
Yeah, like I said, like I wanted to get on, and I had that little link. I kept on looking at it. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have some time. I know I'm gonna have some time here soon. And I just wanted to have it like faster than I did. And then now I think this is perfect timing.
It is. It always works out that way. Yeah. I feel like anybody who comes on here and says that, like, man, if we're finally getting around to this conversation, it's like, this is when it was supposed to happen. Yeah.
No, it's good. Right. I love it. And thank you for having me on.
Definitely. Thanks for coming, Nick.
Yeah. And thanks for everybody who's listening. You're part of all this work and this whole community just by plugging us into your earbuds. So please continue to do this, to listen in. Subscribe if you haven't already. If this podcast has been meaningful to you, please do leave us 5 stars, and a little comment goes a really long way for other folks to decide they're going to invest a little bit of time to listen as well. And send this episode to somebody, or post it on your Instagram story or something. Get these words out there, because more people need to hear them. And then, like Nick said, you can connect with the 3 of us directly, and Bryce will tell you more about how you can do that.
Well, the way that you do that, Liz, is by getting a string and tying 2 cans together and throwing 1 can over this way so we can holler at each other, because that's the best way. Or you can go on the App Store, download the Phoenix app. And then when you download the Phoenix app, you have access to the entire Phoenix community, including the community groups on that app. And one of those community groups on that app is the Rise, Recover, Live community group, where we will all be. You can holler at us one-on-one. Tell us what you love about this episode. Tell us what you love about the show. Tell us what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of. Let's continue this conversation there.
Heck yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we did it.
I got a quick end. So
we didn't do it.
I think let's end on Nick. So this podcast is in its infancy. Where it goes is in its infancy. And I imagine that one day soon, hopefully, that our podcast will be inside, these prisons and places where, people are experiencing some of the things that you've experienced. So how about let's try something different for the first time ever in the show's history. How about you take us out, Nick, by saying something to that person listening on the inside, giving them some words.
Well, I don't even know what to say. You lost me on that one. Usually I'm not lost for words, but my advice to them, I would just say, hey, just keep doing what you're doing. Believe in yourself. Change the culture. You can change the culture. It starts with you. Don't give up hope.
I heard it here.
Yeah. I think you already gave a lot of really beautiful words too. So let's just wrap it up with a bow.
All right, everybody. We will catch you next time on Rise, Recover, Live.
So now you're excited. Bryce, Liz, how do I get involved with the Phoenix? Well, my friend, it is super simple. We actually have an app. Head over to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or look in the show notes of this podcast, wherever you're listening to or watching this podcast, and go download the Phoenix app.
The Phoenix app makes it so easy to find classes that are near you or to access our virtual class schedule where you can hop on from the comfort of your home. You can also join our groups and have a conversation with someone from the Phoenix community from anywhere in the world. Please make sure that you join the podcast group where you can connect with Bryce and I and other listeners. Everything that you need is in the show notes. You can also head to our website at www.thephoenix.org. And maybe while you're there, you click the volunteer tab and get even more involved.